This week on Phantom Power Hour.
Can you show this one yet?
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah. I don't know the max limit of I/O that you can stack with Apollos. I mean, I'm sure it's a much larger number than it used to be. But it is the season of product releases, so there's going to be a whole lot to talk about.
The UA stuff is just the tip of the iceberg, most likely.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Hello.
Hello.
Sally sells seals
Oh, no.
at school time.
Well, at least it's during school hours.
Now we switched mic stands. Mine's going to drift down for the whole portion now.
Sucker.
I feel like I'm further away.
If Sally sold seals, I would purchase a seal from Sally. Because first of all, I'd want to make sure that the seal goes to a good home. And seals are just like water dogs. And I love dogs.
But is she like an official seal reseller?
That's a good point. Maybe she's like a seal poacher and like steals them from their home and then sells them on the black market.
Do you get like seals on the seals to say there?
You get Sally's seal of approval? Man, I did not plan on jumping into this so quickly, but speaking of like poachers stealing animals and stuff, have you heard of or seen the movie Slaughterhouse?
No. I don't like where this is going at all.
The boys and I did a little mini tour up in Wisconsin over the weekend, and
The boys, you mean Josh Powell?
Yep, and one of the bars that we went to afterward was showing Slaughterhouse on the TVs in there, and Jacob and I got so enthralled just sitting there at the bar watching like the first 2/3 of the movie or so, and then we left, so we didn't get to see the ending, and there was no audio on it.
Oh.
So the next day after we get home, Jacob comes over to my house and we watch the whole movie with audio this time. But the premise of it is it's a sorority, and one of the gals decides to get a sloth because she's promised that it'll make her like internet famous. And the sloth becomes the mascot for the sorority, but it just wants to go home, and it just starts murking everybody in the sorority.
Like in slow-mo?
I don't want to give too much of the plot away. But I wouldn't call it a must watch.
You don't have to watch it.
So when we were watching it, Jacob and I were like trying to guess what the budget for the movie is, because it looks like, I guessed maybe 20 grand or something like that for the budget. It looks like the camera quality is solid. The sloth itself looks awful. Like everything about the acting is not stupendous by any means. $22 million budget for this movie.
That was the budget?
Yes.
What did they clear?
I didn't look. I didn't look what they cleared. That's scary. And it's like direct to streaming. It's on Hulu if you want to watch.
I don't even have a Hulu account.
Man, there are some movies that are so bad they're great. And that's one of my favorite kind of formats of horror movies. Like Thanksgiving comes to mind. Have you?
No.
Oh, man.
We're going to get demonetized quick.
Thanksgiving is about a turkey that talks, and it's even worse than Slaughterhouse, but that makes it so bad that it's good.
So when you talk about like B horror movies, I just think about Rubber with the tire.
Yeah, this is like M rated, N rated, like so far in the alphabet.
We're down to like Q.
Yeah, exactly. But man, tis the season, It's almost that spooky time,
and tis the season for products.
This is very true. There have been some massive releases lately.
Why is it so hard to find these guys? Wow.
Yeah. So I love pedals in general, just gear. And one of the things that I really enjoy is the aesthetic of it. And I think UA just when they started releasing all their stomps, like the Starlight, and you know that whole series, the 6-knob series, two switches. Man, I love the look of it. It looks so great. You can see any one of them from far away, and you know exactly what it is. Kind of like Boss is. You know, you see a Boss pedal from 100 feet away. You don't know which one it is, but you know it's a Boss pedal because of the way it looks.
That's a good point.
And I love that about the form factor of those 6-knob UA pedals.
I love the idea of what they're doing, and I would love to play with these because I come from a lot of Apollo gear in the studio. Like I had 2 or 3 Apollos because you could chain them together, and this was, I say, back when. Like I think you could only run like 32 channels simultaneous on like a Pro Tools Vanilla.
Only.
So wow, I mean, still, that does feel like a lot at some points. But if you're in a building, you're running a whole session with like 6 or 7 players, you eat it up quick.
Totally.
I mean, on a drum set, 10 to 12, maybe like they're gone.
Yeah.
And if it's a big kit, even more. Like, but so I was deep into Universal Audio stuff until I switched to my current converters, which are Burls. I still use a lot of UA plugins. I have like a little satellite when you still needed some hardware to run their plugins, and now like a lot of it is just native, which is great. I love that they open up the ecosystem a little bit.
I both love and don't love that. As soon as you said satellite, my brain was just Dave Matthews, satellite, now playing.
Okay. Let's not go down a Dave Matthews thing. I'm trying.
I didn't mean to get you started on it.
Carter Beauford. We should just wear gloves.
For real, yeah.
But tons of new. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because you brought this up, and this is a super interesting topic. With these plugin releases, they're pedal releases, but are they just taking the plugins that are essentially just software, putting it into a pedal format? Is that what they're doing?
That's a good question. With these new ones, I'm not completely sure if they're analog or digital or like a hybrid. Some of the new ones, like we were just looking at, they released the LA2A this week, which is kind of, would you consider it like a standard compressor?
Which one?
The LA2A?
I mean, it's like a studio staple for sure. Like
Yeah.
as far as optical tube compression goes. I know somebody out there is going to say the LA2A is not a tube compressor. Call it whatever you want. It's a staple.
No, it's a compressor.
It has tubes in it. The tubes are not the function of the compression. An optical circuit is. However,
The tubes still matter. They still provide the tones.
and that's part of the character of that device anyway. But I mean, if UA is known for nothing else, they're known for capturing the essence of gear really, really well, really close. I mean,
Sure.
there was a time it wasn't even up for discussion. Like Universal Audio made the best plugins, period. I mean, now there's so many names in that game, but they have such an interesting.
And I wanted to point out on their kind of marketing material themselves, they say underneath the LA2A pedal, legendary tube magic.
Yeah.
So
what do you have? Like a Plexi Roar? That's a Marshall.
yeah. So the Lion 68 just came out, and so that's in the same.
It's like a JTM.
I think you can switch between I think 2 different circuits. I have looked into these very little in comparison to the previous releases because these are brand new, but it's in the same vein as their kind of Fender style one, the Vox styled one. So now they have a Marshall styled one.
Can you upload your own IRs to this?
I believe so.
Let's look.
Because I know that you do have USB connectivity, but I don't remember if it's just for their app. And for disclosure, I've never owned one of these. I've played through a couple of the UA pedals very briefly.
I've had a few of them. I've had, well, a lot of them come through the studio and like tracked them. The Ruby was pretty cool.
I like the Ruby.
What's the Fender one called?
Is that Starlight, or is Starlight just the reverb?
I don't know.
I'll help in your. Oh, you've got it. You've got multiple tab.
I'm
over
going
here.
down the road of like, can you put impulses on these?
Oh, okay. All right. Beep, beep, beep.
So it says there are captures of impulse responses, but it doesn't look like you can upload your own.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the Starlight is just the delay. It's like an echo station, tape, bucket, brigade, and digital delays. Oh, okay. It's the Dream. The Dream is their Fender style pedal.
Okay.
That
sounded
65.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the impulses are good on those already. I mean, coming from the aux box, which I haven't personally owned one, but I've engineered countless sessions with them. They sound great.
Did you know that they released the aux stomp?
I heard about that.
Yeah.
And that seems super intriguing.
I've been very tempted on multiple occasions to get an aux box, but I haven't pulled the trigger, but the aux stomp might be more my ballpark.
So what is the selling point for that? Because it's not a load box.
It is to be used in conjunction. From what I've seen so far, the best use case or the most common use case is to use it in conjunction with any of your other kind of amp emulators, and use that as the cabinet simulator. Because you're right, I don't believe you can use it straight up as a load box like the full-blown aux box is.
This is kind of a bummer. Like, it doesn't, nowhere can I find if you can upload your own impulses to these pedals. Like, I feel like if that was a thing, they would say it everywhere, and they're not. And it just says like the USB-C port is for firmware updates, so maybe that comes later. What's one of their old ones? Okay, UA Ruby. So this is just taking like their cabinet section of the box itself, getting rid of the load box, and then you get it's stereo. That's cool. But I don't know. You probably couldn't upload your own. I mean, there's cheaper ways to get your own impulse on here, if that were the case anyway. This is a $400 pedal that just does like speaker emulation. Yeah,
but I believe it does the same thing as the aux box, where you can have like the room ambience dialed in the way you want, and you get that legendary UA reverb and all that kind of stuff in there. But
I mean, there's a lot of power under the hood. I just wish you could do your own thing with it.
And that's kind of surprising that you can't, because I wouldn't see how UA would not benefit from adding that versatility to it. And
I mean, maybe it's a form of quality control to some aspect, or there's something in like the licensing of the products that they're emulating that they are trying to keep it up to a certain standard, which I guess I can understand.
Yeah.
Or like that's just a whole level of functionality that you would have to add into software, but I don't know.
And I'm not trying to make fighting words or anything, but something like that in comparison to a Tone X, where you can load in any IR that you want. You can make profiles of whatever amp you want. It has multi-effects built in, similar price point. I mean, I don't know. It seems harder to justify getting a single pedal that models a single amp and then getting another pedal that has a few impulse responses.
Now, what I do like about like the single amp thing, like even having a Kemper, which is right down here, right off camera, like I'm mainly using one amp and one IR that I like. They're mine, like they're my own captures, but I'm using it like an amp. So I don't need like 20 different options. So I like this thing that they're doing. Like if you like the Fender thing, here's your Fender. If you like the Marshall thing, here's a Marshall. If you like I think the Ruby's an AC30.
Yeah.
But you have like those amps. So like you've just got that sound with you and it's right on your pedal board. If that's your thing, you don't need to carry all this other stuff. I appreciate that wholeheartedly.
I really do like the fact that you've got these 6 knobs and a few switches, and if you want to change something, it's right there in front of you and you can see the change in your like right in front of you. You don't have to do any menu diving or anything like that.
That is pretty cool. So UA, if you want to send us some pedals, let us know.
Yeah, I'd love to dig into some of them. If you don't mind, hop back to that landing page, because they did release the Lion, which is their Marshall style kind of amp simulator or emulator. I never know which is the right word to use, because I know that there's a difference between like an amp modeler and an amp emulator, but it's one of those. It's supposed to sound like a Marshall, but they released some more small form factor pedals, the LA2A being one of them, and I think 3 others. They released like 4 pedals in one day, which is a pretty, I mean, to me at least, it seems like a pretty big deal for a company like UA to release.
So at least the ones on the top line are the Lion, the Teletronics LH2A, which tells me that this is licensed because they're actually using the name, which, I mean, they would have the license anyway because they make a plugin.
Yeah.
Flow.
Vintage.
So what is that? Phase, what's that called?
The
Phase 90?
It's got the color of it. It's a no, because it's a tremolo though.
Yeah. What is this guy?
Wonder what it's based on. And where does, I'm just hopping around here now. Where does the name Lion come from? What? Marshall.
Probably
Lion.
countless focus groups.
Yeah.
I don't know. That looks like a. Yeah, I'm not up on my trim pedals by any means.
I'm not a huge trim guy. I like it built into like a blackface
so
or
like
something.
A bucket brigade chorus. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
The aux stomp and then heavenly plate reverb. Is this like their?
I do like a good plate.
Is this their built-in like plug-in plate? That's just in a because that's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. Are you falling again?
No, I think I was just slouching over when I set this originally.
We need to get those little things that somebody commented on the video when yours was falling.
Oh yeah, the types of screws that they were using. Do you have like do you have a favorite type of delay or reverb in terms of plate versus hall, types of reverb, shimmer? Shimmering I think of as a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But then with delays like tape delays, bucket brigades, digital delays, and I know the caveat is it's the use case. It's what kind of vibe are you going for? But if it's just you personally, do you find yourself gravitating towards one or another?
Mine's going to be a weird answer because I'm mostly in a studio context. So, and if I play out so rarely, it's almost like I don't care. I'm just playing. But in the studio, my delay, I don't even know what they're emulating, but Replica XT. It's Native Instruments delay. It's pretty cheap if I remember right.
Yeah, I think that was one of your Desert Island plugins.
Yeah, I mean, every time I want a delay, I basically reach for that thing because it can do so many different kinds of delays. And then the reverbs, I mean, obviously, Valhalla Vintage Verb is right up there.
But even in there, you have the different algorithms. You have the chamber, the hall.
I'm definitely a hall boy. Like, I gravitate towards halls a lot, or something non-linear, like just something gross, like a disgusting reverb that doesn't fit something else. And I almost don't care what it is. Like, if it's either everything's going to like a similar room, or I'm going to throw something in a weird space where it's separated from everything else.
Yeah, I like that.
What about you?
Delay wise, so keeping on the Valhalla train, I like the Valhalla delay a lot because you have all those different kind of algorithms in there. And I have
not played with the Valhalla delay at all.
It's a lot of fun. I think there may be some more pristine sounding delays perhaps that you would like, especially since you're comfortable with like Replica XT and probably a few other ones. But
I like that one because it's so dark. Like, I like it because it's grungy.
it's the same kind of plug-in form factor as Vintage Verb, but just a delay. So you have the modes on the bottom left, and you can get like hi-fi digital ones. You can get kind of more 80s style digital delays.
Holy cow!
I'm a huge fan of Bucket Brigade styles. And then you can also, in Valhalla Delay, have like a Bucket Brigade ducking delay, which is great for doing like lead guitar stuff or really just about anything. It's a whole lot of fun.
So many modes.
Yeah, and with any of them, you can change if it's single delay, dual delay, quad, ping pong. The ratio is pretty fun to mess around with as well. And then you can change, kind of the spread of them all. You can change how it diffuses if you want it to kind of turn into a reverb or stay very clear as a delay. It's a lot of fun to use.
I may have to pick this up. $50. Heck
Well worth it, man. Well worth it.
That's why I like their plugins. They're just like, $50.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. I understand that's a lot of money for some people, but like for a good reverb, they're underpriced.
Well, okay.
As much money as Vintage Verb has made me, I know it hasn't directly made me any money, but
As much as you use it in a working context.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
So if you do any type of work in the DAW, even if that's just practicing, that's the whole reason I started using Ableton, was just to have a silent way to practice at home. And we were talking about pedals. You could get one reverb pedal for around $50. You can get like a Flama, which is pretty affordable. A few different reverb, or I think the Flama is the reverb. Anyway, there's the brand. Doesn't matter. My point being, you can get yourself something at a similar cost that is a physical pedal that you can take to gigs with you. You can use at home when you practice, but you're usually only getting one, maybe two sounds out of it. And for that price, there are some really high quality budget options, but not always the highest fidelity, regardless of the type of effect you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Or you spend $50 on Valhalla or any other type of plug-in brand out there that does something similar, and you get so much versatility and an opportunity to train your ear to understanding what these different types of effects sound like, which I don't know. That's kind of my justification for, dropping some coin on a plugin that has so much versatility in it.
If that's like the first place to go for a third-party plugin, if you're in the DAW world too, I feel like compressors and reverbs, because you can do a lot of damage with the stock plugins in every category.
Very
And EQs will get you really, really far, especially stock.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the first things you're going to run up against that you need to branch out with are compression, because you're going for like a character thing, and most of the time the stuff built into most DAWs is either really, really clean or built really, really efficient, which is why you can do a lot of damage with them.
Yep.
But if you want to lean into like a character that and hear on other like records that you've listened to before, that's typically like your first place to go. Or reverbs, because again, they're built super efficient. Normally they sound great and super clean. Like one of the reverbs I use the most besides Valhalla is Revibe, built right into Pro Tools.
Yeah.
That's an incredible reverb. I love it. But it's kind of like vanilla. I mean, it's a really high quality vanilla, but
like that Madagascar vanilla.
Yeah, like when you want to go spend $40 on a bottle of vanilla.
Ooh.
But it's built right in, so there you go.
Man, I think I've used real vanilla one time.
Overrated.
I agree.
I felt fancy and did it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I didn't notice anything.
No. But also, I'm not a master chef or baker, so
Nor am I.
yeah. Maybe some macaron with some real vanilla would be excellent. I'm not the guy to tell you though. I made some basically boxed cookies, so
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
no.
Yeah, UA's in an interesting position to like, they're building hardware and software. So like packaging, I don't know if this is what's happening, but like repackaging software as hardware.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting prospect.
It's a cool idea, man. I mean, just a handful of years ago, before they started doing all the hardware stuff, I could imagine a lot of conversations being, man, I love this UA plugin. I wish I could gig with it.
Well, yeah. But I mean, didn't they started as hardware, didn't they? Or did plugins come before the interfaces?
I mean hardware in sense of pedals.
Got it.
Like effects pedals.
Yeah. Well, now I'm curious. Which came first, Apollos or their plugins?
The chicken or the Apollo?
I feel like I saw satellites before I saw.
There you go again. Dave Matthews on the brain, automatically.
Don't drink the water.
Satellite.
Man.
That was on my mind. I don't know much of the history of UA. Are you familiar with much of the lore behind UA?
The lore? No.
Me neither. That's what I want to know.
I didn't know there was UA lore.
Oh man, everything has a little bit of lore.
I mean, my experience with UA was it was the most affordable. Man, when was this? 2012 or 13. Like, it was probably the highest quality consumer or prosumer interface you could get that had the most flexibility and the lowest latency and like all this other stuff that you got along with it, like, or plugins. I mean, it got you into an ecosystem for sure.
Yeah.
But it was the way in to make like a pro studio from a consumer standpoint, because there wasn't a whole lot else out there that could like go toe to toe with them at the time, especially for everything that they were offering. Like, you get an interface, you get these plugins and you get these on sale. And like, it was, they definitely pulled you into an ecosystem, which at a certain point I kind of got turned off by because I felt limited with what I could do. And this was years ago. I had between my multiple ones, because you could stack interfaces, and that's how you could get all the IO you need to run like a larger space. The latency on each individual mic pre was not reporting the right way.
Oh.
And that was what had originally gotten me out of that. Now I've tested some other buddies, and that's not a problem. It's not a thing anymore.
Interesting.
Like, they've fixed that. But that's what got me out of it, because you can't be recording drums and not know exactly what my phase relationships are.
Yeah.
Because that's that gets a little hairy. Yeah.
I've always been kind of impressed by the resale value of like all the UA stuff, interface wise at least. Even now, it all still holds up.
Really? When I was selling mine, it did not have any resale value.
Oh yeah. I mean, so my kind of perspective is in comparison to something like the Scarlet line.
Oh yeah.
You know, where a new generation comes out and automatically everything else is cut in terms of resale value.
Sure. Well, I think UA definitely does a good job of like firmware support. Like, you know, they're going to consistently support something. I think even the oldest Apollos that are out there, I think can still be, I think they're still supported and are still getting firmware updates. I could be wrong about that, because I feel like at this point now that's pretty far back. But as far as much as the company could, it seems like they do pretty well protecting like your investment. Now, that said, there's a new model every year and there's something new every year, which I know that turns some people off. But
have you had any hands-on experience with the Volt?
I have not. I have a, what is the Twin? I have a Twin over there. But I don't have, I've never played with a Volt. I feel like that's the bus powered one, right?
I believe so. I don't know much about it because I was not in the market for an interface. And so I saw that came out and I was like, oh, that's cool. And that was the end of it.
I mean, speaking of like bus powered interfaces, I feel like I have like the most overpowered one here. It's like, it's sitting right there, actually. I'm gonna pull that bad boy over.
Can you show this one yet?
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah. The Neve 88. Yeah. I mean, as far as bus powered stuff goes, I'm interested to see like what does flexibility look like with this? I'm pulling up like a Volt. I want to see the back of it. Come on, internets. 2 in, 2 out.
You got MIDI.
Well, that always confuses me now. Like, why is that still on interfaces? Like actual MIDI plugs.
Sometimes you need MIDI plugs, you know.
I guess.
You got
But
some
you can do
vintage,
it with
vintage
USB.
synths. Well, you got what if you got some old school Junos or something like that? You want to run some MIDI in for because you don't want to use the Juno sounds, but you want to play on the Juno.
Well, then you get one of those MIDI to USB things, like $3.
But that's another piece of gear, Jeremy.
I would say that is a lot of real estate on a little interface.
It really is.
That's a lot of real estate taken up.
Surely there's some type of MIDI controlling that people want to use. I don't know.
So what's the biggest, baddest Volt? This guy. Okay, still no spit if in.
But this seems to be more of their like, what would you consider maybe budget line in comparison to the Apollo stuff?
Sure. But I mean, as far as bus powered stuff goes, and this is not budget, so maybe this isn't a fair fight. But there is ADAT in.
This is true.
So, I mean, you can have 10 in with this thing and 10 out with this thing. So, like, you could run a studio off of one of these, and I don't know. It is expensive, but then, and this is a whole talk for another video, but like, I think it's like $1,300 for a bus powered interface, but I think it's a steal.
Yeah. And we'll get into that next time.
And it has to do with these guys.
Oh, don't let them see. Oh. Ah!
Anyway,
What's your UA gear history? Have you owned any UA hardware other than interface hardware?
I've had a couple 1176s. I had a UA 610, which I didn't care for.
Okay.
The 6176, which was like the 610 preamp, and then an 1176. I did not feel like that 1176. It didn't feel like a normal 1176, which is weird coming from the company that makes 1176s. But how many times can I say 1176 and have it
Probably
make
one
sense?
more.
1176.
Okay, I'll put a counter up.
And I know it's not like it doesn't matter, but having I had a Yuri 1176, like the old
Yeah,
ones.
the OG.
Yeah, that thing sounded astonishing. I mean, the way it broke up and the like, there was a killer distortion, but so much like clean bottom end on it. And then you go to like a newer one, and they sound good. Like you can do a lot of damage with them for sure. But then I went to that 610 and with the 6176 because like I knew that was like the Coldplay chain that they used, and I loved that record. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could do some work with it, but I just didn't vibe with it, especially for how much it cost.
Yeah, just wasn't your flavor.
Yeah.
I haven't really gave a gentleman's try to the UA ecosystem yet in any way.
I mean, there's value to be had there if you don't mind being part of an ecosystem. And I don't know why I pushed against it so hard, because like Apple. How many Apple?
Yeah.
I'm in an ecosystem, but I don't know why I don't like being there in a recording context. I just feel so limited, I guess. I don't know.
I understand that, coming from somebody that's not really in an ecosystem, but I do appreciate just the general flexibility. And you can be super flexible if you have an Apollo and then use a bunch of UA plugins and then have some other UA gear. But I think it's maybe the subconscious idea of like, you feel like you're getting stuck in there.
Yeah.
So you just want to break out.
Right.
Yeah. I get that.
And I think there was one instance of like a weird customer service encounter that like I got a sour taste, and I was like, I'm getting out. And then with at the time the like phase thing where they weren't reporting the right way,
right?
That could have been a weird like firmware bug. Like, I'm not blaming that on UA. I know a lot of people who use UA stuff and make killer sounding records. So like, I have nothing against it, but
You
that's
just
where
got
I
hit with
got
the
at.
double whammy.
Yeah.
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 And
it
I
was
mean,
time
you got
to expand.
got to throw in the burls, which was not a bad move.
Well, and at the time, you couldn't expand beyond what I already had.
Mm-hmm.
I think now you can string as many of those things together. I don't know the max limit of.
UA, send us a bunch. Let's find out.
I don't know the max limit of IO that you can stack with Apollos. I mean, I'm sure it's a much larger number than it used to be. But that's kind of, well, I saw an opportunity to like do an upgrade, and that's the route I went.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Hey, I like it too. No bad sounds coming out of here.
But I'm also putting together another mobile rig, so I like Apollos.
Is that part of it? Can you talk about what's part of your mobile rig?
No, I don't have one yet. I'm pricing one out. I'm kind of going between some Focusrite stuff and some Apollo stuff. I'm not exactly sure the route I want to go yet.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to have like a mobile rig I could just take somewhere. Because the amount of times people have wanted to do something in their own space, which I wholly appreciate, I'm like, I just don't want to tear everything down to do it. So if I can have like some monster rig in a fly rack and just go,
Yeah.
that would be so killer.
Would you be working more heavily on the plugin side, or are you going to throw in some hardware into that, do you think?
That would probably just be, let's get a good interface. I mean, there may be a few pieces in there. Like, I like to use distressors. I don't know if that's what would end up in that rack, but I mean, maybe something for control on some sources, or if it's like built into the actual software, like Apollo's. I mean, they make a great distressor emulation. So like there's no reason I couldn't do that through the console itself and then print it right in, which I like that workflow. I don't know.
And you could always come back here and rerun some stuff through the gear that you have. Yeah,
absolutely. But I'm so much into like, let me get it done right now, or let me commit to a sound, because having done it, like you're going to react to the sound you're hearing.
Exactly.
So it's a balance for sure. So I like to push as much color and like big things as I can going into the box. So yeah, I'd be that guy to load up UA console with a bunch of plugins and just run with it.
Yeah, just print straight to Pro Tools with it.
Exactly. Or Luna.
Or Ableton. Ableton.
I need a lesson in Ableton. I run into so many situations because I work around the church and like so many everybody's using Ableton there
For the tracks and everything.
I know enough to like barely get around, but if you tell me to run it, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It seems so fundamentally different from everything else. Like I had one where I tried Ableton. I think Pro Tools Fanboy tries it, and I just barely got through that thing. Like I got a session up and running, and I could put plugins on stuff. But if I'm just jumping and doing something fresh in Ableton, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Interesting.
Especially the clips window.
The clips window is cumbersome if you have zero experience in it, for sure. Yeah.
I think I don't know what to do with it. Like I don't know what it's for. Where I can see this linear. The other window, what do they call the other window? Just the edit window?
I just call it the normal window.
The normal window, which is definitely more linear, like what I'm used to seeing in a DAW. And I understand that function, but on the clip side, I'm like, what is the mindset here?
I don't think the clip side would benefit your work style very much. I see the clip side as you're running tracks, and you can have in one session multiple songs tracked out with the clips, and or you play live with looped samples, and again you can have multiple songs in one project with all the clips, and you can attach them to different MIDI triggers. So if you have a big pad, and I've seen different live performers do that, and DJs do something similar with that as well. And you can I haven't done this, so I might be a little bit wrong about kind of the workflow for it, but you can attach video clips as well, and I believe DJs use Ableton to run videos behind them while also triggering samples for their show.
Yeah, I know that it is beyond powerful. And it can literally fire, like it works with everything. It'll send, even in a church context, like it can run your lyrics, it can run your graphics, it can run everything. And I feel like if I understood it a little more, it could open up like some creative moments. Because there's so many DAWs that will like link to Ableton. And there's a lot of things that Ableton can do, like with Splice, like things just naturally happen there. And those environments are just made for that sampling process and MIDI, and it just works.
Yeah, the like Max for Live is very cool, and how you can set up, like you can set up an LFO that's based on the time, like the tempo of your track, subdivide it however you want, and then have that LFO MIDI control literally anything in your session. So if you want to have an LFO controlling a filter on your delay, you can do it. And then you can have something else controlling that LFO. So in the chorus, if you want to speed up, you can automate that too. But it's really cool. It's one of those DAWs that does so much that you don't need to know everything it does, but it can do everything that I've ever wanted to do in it. So, I don't know.
Give me lessons. Where are we sitting? 43?
43, getting close.
I want to wrap this one up and then let it cool down so we don't run into it.
Yes, yeah, let's do that. I need to pull up my phone, though, because I did not come prepared for...
For Rex?
Yeah. Rawr. That was a dino.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Do you have a favorite dinosaur?
No.
No. Did you ever used to?
I mean, everybody says T-Rex, and that's what I immediately thought. Because
T-Rex is pretty cool.
I have a 4-year-old, and everything's T-Rex, so maybe maybe raptors?
Raptors are terrifying. I always view raptors as like prehistoric chickens.
Angry chickens.
Angry chickens, yeah.
Chickens with attitude. There's no reason you would ever watch Storybots, but do you watch Storybots?
I've not heard of Storybots.
Okay. Hang on. Maybe this is my rec. This is not my rec.
Everybody go out and watch Storybots right now.
Hang on. Okay. So they have different records of like educational things, and this is Velociraptors. Tell me what band this is.
Beastie Boys?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
They got the real Beastie Boys to do
I don't know if it's the real Beastie Boys,
okay.
but they're definitely going for the thing. Okay, Triceratops. Who's this? I think Snoop Dogg, like early Snoop.
I could hear early Snoop Dogg. I was thinking a little bit Logic as well.
Okay, yeah.
But
but they actually have had Snoop Dogg on the show. Man. Yeah. They have a lot of celebrities on the show.
If I could,
pretty clever.
Snoop Dogg's life these days must be so interesting. Like, dude's appeared on just about everything there is to appear on.
I mean, who goes from like hardcore gangster rap to making best friends with Martha Stewart to...
I think that says more about Martha Stewart than it does Snoop Dogg.
I mean, however you want to look at it.
Martha Stewart's probably a real OG, you know?
I mean, she's frightening a little bit. Where's my Rex?
Rawr.
I feel like I have one, but it's like so popular that I'm afraid to throw it out there because like they don't need a recommendation.
Well, that doesn't have to be your recommendation, but who is it?
Sleep Token.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Sleep Token's pretty killer.
I keep coming back to their records. They're so freaking good. Especially if you want to like zone out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's such a good, and they sound so good. I don't know. They're kind of reworking what a metal record is, at least right now. And then there's even to the point where you see new marketing for other bands. And like, there was a female friend of band. I couldn't remember what it was. And they tossed out their first single and somebody's like, oh, this is the female Sleep Token. They're going to be huge. And I was like, they haven't been on the scene that long that they're making like that kind of a wave where other bands are being like, oh, this is this kind of sleep token. Like they're gonna go far. Like,
Hey, but they made a big splash though.
well, yeah. And I think we know. Like, is it known his identity?
I'm not sure.
As I was talking to somebody, and it's actually his name. We think is on the credits.
Really?
Yeah. Like, do you have Apple Music?
No.
Okay, hang on a second. Pardon.
Yeah,
Leo Faulkner. I don't know. Everybody probably knows this already. Like, his name was on Apple Music as on like songwriting credits.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you go look up this dude's other stuff, like his voice, like you can kind of get a gist that this is that dude. Yeah, and then go to we're breaking the internet right now. Who's Sleep Token?
Then go to Storybots.
Then go to Storybots.
Very, very similar timbres going on.
And he was listed in the credits. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how known that is out there, but we were like,
I didn't know.
now you do.
Now you know, the more, you know?
No more now. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to go with Mr. Moon. I don't think I've talked about Mr. Moon on here yet. It is another friend band of ours. Let's see. Their newest release was in 2019. But some really fun. I believe last time we played with them, they were a trio. I'll play a little something real quick.
Ooh.
So kind of synthy, some industrial vibes, but then there are some more groovy elements as well. Let's see if the album I listened to the most was not this one. See discography. Do you know albums by covers mostly?
Yeah.
I operate that way quite a bit. And I thought it was this one, but it might not be.
I'm the worst with song titles because I just listen to like albums through on shuffle, like I never look.
Yep.
So like I have no idea if somebody asked me to name a Sleep Token song. But like, oh, it's this one. Let me shuffle through.
Yeah.
I'll find them.
There we go. So their EP Codes is what I've listened to the most. Cool synthy sounds. And also like some groovy. Just some fun local indie sounds. Not indie Indianapolis, but INDIE, independent sounds.
Where are they from?
I believe they are from.
Or where have you played with them?
We played with them in I want to say Ohio and Michigan, which is why I'm second guessing where they're from. I believe they're from, or was it Illinois?
Midwest-ish.
Yeah, definitely Midwest. All these shows just are a hodgepodge in my brain these days. Yeah, Ohio. Yep.
For lovers, they say.
For lovers. Band from Ohio.
Mr. Moon?
Mr. Moon, yeah.
I dig that vibe. You're always coming with like the good indie stuff, and I've got like, I mean, nobody needs to know who Sleep Token is. They're huge. Like
Somebody needs to know.
somebody maybe.
I mean, I would argue if you don't know who Sleep Token is, then you're the one that needs to know.
Okay. Fair.
You know what I mean?
It's a ride.
It is. That tune, what was it? Summoning, I think is what that one was called. That one's on the gym playlist for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I got a few Sleep Token songs on there.
When this cuts, I'll show you my current gym song.
Oh yeah. Hey everybody, thanks for welcome to Phantom Power Hour.
At the end.
Yeah, we there needs to be one of those like I'm reading a book. Oh hey, I didn't see you there. Thanks for coming.
We don't even say hi anymore. You're part of the hangout.
We jumped in with some really hot button topics: slaughterhouse,
Oh my god!
Thanksgiving, all the good stuff.
But it is the season of product releases, so there's going to be a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming out into the wild, and the UA stuff is just the tip of the iceberg, most likely.
Most guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed. I was trying to play it down, Jeremy.
This is always a troublesome time for gear acquisition syndrome, but it's always a very interesting time to see where technology is at in
Very
our
true.
industry.
I have a perpetual case of gear acquisition syndrome.
You got gas.
Got gas real bad.
He does.
Always want it.
So if you made it this far, put that little air emoji where it looks like you're farting.
Little puff one.
If you have gas too.
And if you somehow liked any of this, just kidding. If you dig any of this stuff that we're talking about here, talking about some new gear, maybe throw in a couple terrible movies while we're at it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, stay up to date with us, make friends in the comments, tell us about some of your Universal Audio history, experience, gear, preferences, likes, dislikes.
Or what you see coming down the pike that you're interested in.
Yeah.
And this one's definitely more stream of consciousness. Maybe let us know if you dig this style or if we should stick to our lane.
Yeah, stay in the lane or not.
This long form podcast stuff, I feel like there's no rules here.
No rules.
This is
Wild West.
Wild.
The wiki wild West.
Wild.
Jim West. Desperado.
Okay.
Okay, bye.